How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Something interesting is happening. Something strange is happening. We have news of more companies buying Bitcoin. We have news of, even just in the last hour, countries or companies in countries around the world buying Bitcoin, adding to their Bitcoin stack. And yet Bitcoin's price remains unchanged. $69,350. This is interesting. We have some news about outflows from the ETFs. Is this the end of Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin going up? Let's talk about it. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see the next video as soon as it comes out. Also, there's a link to Margex underneath the video in case you want to start trading cryptocurrency. You can do it over on Margex. I was wrong. I thought there were 9-10 days left. It's about 1 week left in this giant BOEM airdrop. $5,000 in BOEM tokens, which is a meme coin. But you do some trading, you get these tokens. If you don't want them, you can transfer them and sell them. Now, like I said, Bitcoin's price has been interesting recently because it hit all-time highs. I mean, let's just zoom out. You look a year ago, it was around $27,000, okay? Let's go back to June. $26,000. Went sideways for, 4 months? And then started to move up. ETF anticipation moved all the way up to 48K, 49K once the ETFs were approved. Then fell down to 38K. Then massive run up. Very quick run up. If you just remember that we are up almost 200%, maybe 160% or so over the last year, it makes you feel a little bit better about being sideways for a while. We are seeing some interesting information. I'll talk about whether Bitcoin's going to go up, in my opinion. Of course, this is not financial advice. I can't see the future, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But first, let's go through the inflows. Now, these are the inflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And we look at this daily because for a long time, the price of Bitcoin moved up directly with the amount of inflows or outflows from these ETFs. Now, over the last couple of weeks, that has not been the case. A lot of people are talking about a carry trade. Basically, a lot of hedge funds are going out and buying these ETFs. So they're having inflows to the ETFs, and then they're going and shorting the futures market. So basically, they're netting out to zero. Okay, so they push down the price on the futures market, push up the price from spot. But why would they do that? Why would they go through all the extra hassle of doing that? Well, because they get paid on the short side. They get paid from futures. Basically, whoever is doing more, right? If it's longs, there's more longs in the market, they pay the shorts, or vice versa. If a lot of people are shorting the market, the shorts pay the longs. So they basically get the funding rate, which amounts to 20-30% throughout the year, which is a good return for a hedge fund. Now, this stuff seems to happen for a while until it doesn't, until there's some big short liquidation. I mean, if they're going and shorting the futures market and they're buying here, there is a chance that someone comes in with a large amount of capital, buys Bitcoin, shoots up the price, liquidates shorts, and then they're screwed on the short side, but they make money on the long side, okay? There's a reason that they have the long position. It's to hedge from the market going up, right? If they only had shorts, then they would get screwed if the market went up. So they're doing this kind of carry trade. Now, does this mean that some of these flows into IBIT, FBTC, GBTC, some of these ETFs, does it mean that some of these flows don't actually help the price of Bitcoin? Kind of. It does, right? If they're going and shorting and then longing or buying the ETFs, it kind of negates some of the flows. Now, I'll say though, I'd still prefer this to be the case because this does give us more fuel to the fire. And sorry, I'm giving a lot of backstory, and we'll get through some actual news here in a second, but this is what a lot of people are talking about. This can still add more fuel to the fire. It's like if you throw a plastic bottle of gasoline, and you put it like right on the edge of the fire, like eventually the heat is going to burst through that plastic and then it's going to go up. That's kind of how I see this, right? There's a lot of like added leverage into the system, and just the fact that we're seeing more inflows in general I think is good. It shows IBIT, FBTC, GBTC, hey, there's a lot of money to be made here. You should continue advertising this. So just the fact that they are so successful, it pulls in other investors that wouldn't have otherwise found out about FBTC and IBIT. They're the most successful launches. It gives them more reason for the CEOs to go on live TV and talk about these ETFs, and it just gets more people interested in the space. Okay, so I still think it's better that this happens and it's kind of washed out and net zero than it not happen. But that is something that we have to consider moving forward, that there is some of that. Now that's not happening the entire time, but that happens with some of the hedge funds. They are just trying to get the yield essentially. With that being said, let's look at what that ETFs did. GBTC had a $40 million outflow. BITB, $8 million inflows. BTCO, $20.5 million outflow. So overall, and I don't know if I said this, but Fidelity with a rare outflow of $3 million. So before IBIT, we have $55 million of outflows. So we did have some net selling. Now there are some entities buying here today. I talked about, actually before we get into this, I talked about DeFi Technologies this morning. They announced that they were buying over 100 Bitcoin. They were putting this on their treasury as a treasury asset. They're up 56% over the last 5 days. Let's take a look at just today. They're up 23%. This is nuts. And I talked about it again. I talked about it yesterday when I filmed the video. It was $1. Okay. It was $1.01, up 60%. Insane. Semler Scientific announced, a week and a half ago, that they were going to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. They bought a significant amount. We're talking $50-60 million. They're up 15% today. They didn't even make an announcement. I don't even remember if they bought any more Bitcoin. They're just up 15%. But they're up a lot since they bought Bitcoin. Look here. Metaplanet, Semler, and DeFi all announced that they're going to a Bitcoin balance sheet, and they're up 30 to 50% over the last 5 days. Now, Metaplanet also just announced after hours today, like in the last hour, that they were purchasing an additional 23.35 Bitcoin. All right. I like it. I like it that they're not going for round numbers. There's a reason, because it's getting more expensive to buy Bitcoin, right? They're going to the 20th of a Bitcoin there, going to 0.05 Bitcoin and rounding there, but 23.35, adding more Bitcoin to their balance sheet, as I've said too. This might be why they did 23.35, because it's 250 million yen. They rounded there too. But as I said in previous videos, as more companies announce that they're buying Bitcoin, it makes it more likely that other companies start buying Bitcoin. I mean, if you just look at it from a company perspective, if we announce that we're going to buy Bitcoin on our balance sheet, we can move up 30 to 50% in 5 days. That makes it a lot more attractive, right? You can get cheaper debt, possibly. A lot of retail traders start looking at you. Your own net worth, if you're like a CEO of this company and you have a lot of stock, your own net worth goes up significantly. You're also buying an asset that isn't going to bleed to the US dollar, or isn't going to bleed down in value every year. It's going to actually go up against the US dollar. So unlike dollars, which consistently go down year after year after year, where they're kind of a liability unless you have some good growth, some way of growing as a company. They are a liability because you could be using them for something, but instead they're being devalued. And not the 2 to 3% that the government says that CPI is, not 2 to 3% a year. You're losing 10%, because that is what the money supply goes up. 7 to 10% a year. So it is a bit of a liability, but if you buy Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. All right. And it becomes more and more scarce as more and more of these large companies buy a significant amount of Bitcoin. Now, let's move through the last couple things. You can see companies adopted Bitcoin as a strategy. 2021, MicroStrategy. Then 2024, already we have Metaplanet, Semler, Square, DeFi Tech all announcing too. And then there are companies like Tether and some other crypto companies that buy a significant amount of Bitcoin too, but they're not putting their entire balance sheet in Bitcoin by any means. Alex Becker says, yes, stupid. It's time to keep loading up. Something is cooking. Only those who sign up within the next 24 hours will be included. Okay, that's a scammer. Okay, yes, stupid. It's time to keep loading up. That's why you have to be careful on crypto. Even I still read some of the scam comments. But yes, I had someone ask me, someone that I just met today, whether I thought Bitcoin was going to move up. That's always the question when people find out what I do, that I talk about Bitcoin almost on a daily basis. Their question is Bitcoin going up? And honestly, if you have a long enough time frame, yes. Right? I don't like to tell people that. I don't like to say Bitcoin's going up in my opinion in person. I know I've met some people that are like trying to talk everyone that they know into buying Bitcoin. But it's interesting because as soon as you do that, inevitably, sometimes the price goes down and then the person panic sells and they say, oh, why did you get me into this? It's just not worth it. But with you guys, I know I can tell you my actual thoughts. So with enough time, yes, Bitcoin's price is going up because the US dollar has no bottom. It's going to continue to be devalued. There are very, very, very few things that are actually rare. As I've said, the main selling point to Bitcoin is there's only ever going to be this certain amount. There's a huge network effect already. You can send it across the world. And we continue to see, I think, global adoption of this currency. We continue to see the world need it more and more. Now, I've done videos explaining this, thinking it through a little bit more with how to pitch it to people. But this is one of the best properties about Bitcoin is there's only going to be 21 million. So yeah, when Semler says that they're going to buy Bitcoin, when DeFi Technologies, when MicroStrategy says that they're going to buy, it's taking more Bitcoin away. And there's never going to be a change in the number of Bitcoin out there. There are constantly people losing Bitcoin. You can send this across the world in a few seconds. And depending on how you do it, you can send it for a few pennies. It's truly, truly the only asset that you can hold that will never, like I said, that they'll never make more of. Unlike real estate, they can always build more properties. Unlike the US dollar, they can always print more. Unlike a stock, they can issue more shares. And it's the only thing that you can truly own without someone taking it away from you. I mean, legally, they can say that they're going to seize it from you, but if you have the words up in your head, right, it can't be taken away from you. If I don't pay property taxes, my house is taken away. If I don't register my car and I drive it, I get in trouble. If I do something illegal, my body gets taken away. Basically, I get shoved into prison. But I can go right now, put some Bitcoin on a cold storage wallet and make sure that no one ever touches it. Okay? That is one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin. So yes, if you have a long enough time frame, I think Bitcoin's going up. I've helped people get their hands on Bitcoin. Now, would I do that if I thought Bitcoin was going to go down? No. Do I think Bitcoin's going to go up right away? I don't know. Right? I don't know what's going to happen in the next month. I don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. But if I had to guess, a year or two from now, are we higher than now? Yeah, I do think so. I think we move up between now and a couple of years from now. Now, who knows? 2 years from now, maybe we're in a bear market, right? Because, 2022 was a bear market. 2 years from now is 2026. Maybe we're looking at the same price, but in the meantime, we go up much higher. So that is my guess. If you have 4 years, yeah, I think Bitcoin's going to go up a lot higher than it is now. If you have 1 year, I still think it's going to go up, but I would not be placing that bet. If you're going to buy a house in a year, do not buy Bitcoin, in my opinion. You're going to drive yourself insane. Let me know your thoughts, though. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Again, there's that link to Margex underneath. I appreciate it. I will see you all